We can't let them continue their lies and their distractions. We can't let them deport the millions of families across this country who have been doing the work that keeps our economy going every day. We can't let them scapegoat and criminalize immigrants who contribute, who are our neighbors, our friends, our churchgoers, our community around us that we deeply love. Immigrants are us. Immigrants are us, and we all deserve respect and dignity. If you look at the food that's on your table, think about who picked it. If you look at your homes, think about who built them. If you look at your vulnerable elders and your kids, think about who's taking care of them. We can't let them continue their lies and their distractions. We can't let them deport the millions of families across this country who have been doing the work that keeps our economy going every day. We can't let them scapegoat and criminalize immigrants who contribute,
We're going to have to add
who are our neighbors, our friends, our churchgoers, our community around us that we deeply love. Immigrants are us.
It's right next to Toys R Us and Babies R Us. Immigrants are us. And what can you get there? Cheap labor so that they can pick your fruits and vegetables, J. Powell.
Immigrants are us, and we all deserve respect and dignity. If you look at the food that's on your table, think about who picked it.
If we illegalize slavery, who's gonna pick all those crops? I mean, they say it out loud, and the amazing thing is, at first they're shamed for it. Do you remember when Joel Osborne said it on, I don't think it was The View. I remember Rosie Perez. Is that her? Billy, you're so stupid. Her. When Joel Osborne, whatever her name was, Mr. President, if you deport all the immigrants, who's going to wash your toilets? And then everyone's like, oh, you can't say that. And she's like, oh, no, I didn't mean, I would never say. Then you got Ralph Nader saying, if we don't have illegal immigrants, the crops are going to rot in the field. You have the fact that some of them are white doesn't make it any worse or better. Jayapal coming out right now and literally saying the racist thing that Joel Osborne, is that her name? Why do I feel like I'm going crazy? That Joel Osborne was shamed for having said, who's going to scrub your toilets? Oh, no, that's not what we use illegal immigrants for at all. Joel, that's a racist trope. And now they just proudly say it. That's what they think immigrants are us are for. They're immigrants, not are us. They're immigrants for us. You said it wrong, Jayapal. We need cheap, unskilled, illegal immigrants to exploit so that we can underpay them for, I won't even call them trivial jobs. I won't call them menial jobs. They are jobs that are not usually intended to be lifelong careers. When I was up in Quebec, and by the way, you think this problem's only American? I was up in Quebec and I was at a farm that I used to love frequenting. And I just noticed, it was summertime, and I noticed that there were buses, literal buses, that were bringing in and out quite clearly Mexican labor. And I asked the farm owner, I said, like, what's up with that? You can't, we're up in the middle of Quebec. It's not exactly the most prominent demographic. You can't find any local labor? You know what the guy tells me? Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work, not because the job is so bad, but because unemployment pays so good. And what they do up in what they call a région de Québec, what they do is they claim unemployment for half of the year and then work under the table during that unemployment period. And then they work for half of the year and they get basically half the year off with paid government work, or as I should say, government subsidizing while they work under the table, taking cash, not paying tax on that. I was like, you can't find kids, like teenagers who want a summer job? People who need this as a transitional job? No, it's actually cheaper to pay for housing for people from South America for an entire summer, let's say 6 months, 4 to 6 months, pay for their housing, pay for their lodging, pay for their food. I don't know what he paid them. I didn't want to get that far into business. That's cheaper than trying to find local employment, because local employment has no interest in it, because it's cheaper to be unemployed in Quebec than it is to work hard for your money. And Payapal, an immigrant herself, exploiting unskilled labor. It is modern slavery. It's modern indentured servitude. And it's exactly by design. Democrats are not the only ones guilty of it, but my goodness, they are particularly guilty of saying the quiet part out loud and not hearing themselves. Primala Payapal, thank you. PayPal. I see her name and I see PayPal. That's all I can see. Good morning, everybody. Afternoon, if we're on the West Coast, the East Coast, which we are. Good morning, East, West Coast. Good evening, England, yada, yada, yada. We've got one heck of a show today because yesterday, we're going to go over some of the stuff that we saw yesterday on the live stream. I've clipped some of the highlights. But we got a lot to talk about. Dan Bongino, tapped for deputy director of the FBI. I did a short car vlog on that yesterday. Robert Barnes, kicking ass, taking names, but unfortunately being the you can't beat City Hall, and you sure as hell can't beat communism. At least not with the courts in a Soviet-style system. We're going to get to what happened to Barnes yesterday and some stuff that's going on in Canada. Meanwhile, in Canada, what I wanted to start with, by the way, was I was going to start with this because it's just so flipping glorious. This is a little bit old. It's, when the fires were going on, Kamala Harris looking good, looking presidential. This is after I think she lost. When is this from? It's about the California fire, so it has to be a little bit old, but I'm fairly certain this is after she already lost the election. You want to talk about verbal diarrhea, brain rot? Like, you will get stupider if you hang around with stupid people, and you'll be brain damaged if you hang around with Kamala for a week. Listen to this.
Through your mind, when you see this, you're here, you're now seeing it up close.
Right. It's not only seeing it, Alex, you can smell it. You can feel it, right? So it's seeing it with our eyes, and many people have seen it. You all are covering it. But to literally be on the ground here, you can smell the smoke that was here. You can feel the toxicity, frankly, of the environment. You can feel the energy of all of the folks who are still here on the ground. Alex, you can smell it.
Stop. If anybody knows where I'm going with this reference, my goodness, good on you. I heard that. I immediately thought Eddie Murphy. I think this was from Raw back in the day.
You can smell it. You can smell it.
He's talking about farting in the bathtub, people. That was the original stand-up videos that we used to see long format. There was that might have been Delirious. This might have been Delirious. Hold on, let me see here. You could smell it. You could smell it. I won't be able to tell if it's from Delirious or Raw, but both of those were classics of an era. Yes, Kamala Harris, you can see it with your eyes. You can smell it with your nose. You can hear it with your ears, and you can touch it with your hands. And you can feel it with the sixth sense that is the human body. What an idiot. I mean, it's like exactly what Trump said. It's like she's speaking in like children's idiot Dr. Seuss rhyme. The wheels on the bus, they go round and round. The fire, you can smell it. You can hear it. You can feel it. All right, people, let's get to the show here. Let me see what's going on. I should have double checked that we are alive, that we are live cross platforms. Yeah, we're live on Rumble. We are live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com, and we are live on CommuTube. Now, before we get too far into the show, got to thank our two sponsors of today's episode, The Wellness Company and 1775 Coffee. Now, hold on a second. Got to do it like this. Got to share screen. Got to make sure I play the beautiful B-roll video that they've put in the backdrop, and there we go. Now, by the way, The Wellness Company, folks, the countdown is on before the new administration exposes the entire pandemic. We're going to talk about this today, coming out of Canada. Most know a large sum of people's health was negatively impacted by the global coercion that we witness. Whether it's severe side effects or experiencing long COVID, check out this natural solution formulated by Dr. Peter McCullough in collaboration with The Wellness Company. They just leveled up their original detox formula for $30 less, introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox, conveniently consolidated into one capsule with 4 times more nattokinase, 500 milligrams of bromelain, 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. By the way, when I had a sinus infection, everyone's telling me do the turmeric root. It was actually delicious and worked. Nattokinase, an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research offering effective support for your cells, natural repair, and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom fighter who risked it all during COVID. Head over to twcthewellnesscompany.health/Viva. It gets you 15% off and free shipping. Again, the code is Viva. And by the way, just so everybody appreciates, unfortunately, it's not available anywhere else but in the US. Available to US residents only, twc.health/Viva. The link is in the description. And our second sponsor of the day and our last sponsor of the day, my personal favorite, it is not too late to get in on the chance to win the Tesla Cybertruck, but it might be too late for me to find the flipping, here, I didn't have I want to bring up the website so we can see what the coffee looks like while we're talking about 1775coffee.com, people. Some coffee is weak, some coffee is sad, some coffee is so bad it probably votes Democrat or talks like Kamala Harris. But 1775 coffee is bold, strong. It's the American first in every single cup. The dark roast hits harder than a Trump comeback. The medium roast, smooth, no bitterness. And the Vitality Mushroom Blend fuels your brain like a Trump debate. This is coffee that Patriots drink, that Rumble drinks, and that I drink. Small farms, small batches, roasted fresh in Miami every week, because your coffee should be fresher than a White House press briefing trying to explain the economy. Whole beans, ground beans, or pods, you can get it all. Go to 1775 Coffee. Use promo code Viva for 15% off. Start every morning with a coffee that actually stands for something and tastes flipping delicious. Remember, every dollar spent enters you in the raffle, or whatever it's called, the draw, to win the Tesla Cybertruck and $30,000 cash. So go check that out, 1775 Coffee. Go check that out. It sounds very Canadian.com. Promo code Viva. Link is in the description. All right. We're going to see what we start with, but it's right after I pick up. Joe Mascu's in the house and says, Viva. So I watched the sentencing hearing twice. I couldn't figure out for the life of me how this man in Seattle violated a supposed TRO when he didn't make contact. I don't understand how the relevant case law justifies his sentencing. As I told Barnes in a comment, from what I could tell, he was being sentenced for being ugly. We're going to start with it. That's the perfect thing to start with because it's an absolute flipping outrage. So yesterday, short notice by request of the community, and because it was one of those rare opportunities where we could actually see not just the legal system in motion, because we've seen that in a number of cases, Rittenhouse, the other guy there, Johnny Depp. You know, we've watched a bunch of cases live. It's not often that we get to watch Robert Barnes in action, because Barnes is, I don't know if he's pro hac vice in this case or if he's licensed to practice in Seattle, Washington. It's not often we get to see Barnes live in action. Occasionally, we get to hear him live when he's at the Court of Appeal. He was there. I shared the audio. It was an amazing thing to listen to when he was pleading the Elizabeth Warren, Deborah Holland defamation case for the Covington kids. It's not very often we get to see Barnes in action and see the court system in action. What we witnessed yesterday was an absolute freaking outrage. Now, admittedly, also, I had to go back and listen to Barnes's pleadings. I knew them. I'm familiar with them. The facts of this case, and I might make a mistake here or there. The facts of the case is that you've got a guy who is, let's call him a foul person. I'm saying that not in a judgmental sense. From a procedural perspective, he's a man who has been declared a vexatious litigant, in that you get it up in different jurisdictions. We'll call it a quarrelsome litigator, a vexatious litigator, someone who sues too many people, represents pro se, files excessive pleadings, and the court has to say, no, this is not how we do things. So go get a lawyer, or cool it, pipe down, or we'll declare you a vexatious pleader, a vexatious litigant, which means you got to get permission of the court before you can file any further proceedings. This guy sued a lot of people. Just let me see here. His name is Kurt. It had the word hoof in it. Hoof. I forget his name now. Oh, goodness. Kurt. I want to see how he's sued Benshoof. Kurt Benshoof. Hold on. So, how many people has Kurt Benshoof sued? I'm pretty sure it's 70. And so you have this guy suing everybody, or suing a lot of people within the judicial system, being declared a vexatious pleader. So the court is going to hate him. What he was accused of in this particular case was violating a no contact order with his son. His son was 12 or 13 at the time. His son now is 17, from what I understand. And he was accused of 80 counts of domestic violence. Understand this, people. The domestic violence consisting of text messages between him and his son. Okay. in the court, we listened to the pleadings. They went through the text messages, and you would not be an unreasonable person for thinking that it was somewhat manipulative. Not knowing the facts, if you operate on the basis that Ben's Hoof is a bad person and the mother is a good person, those would be deemed to be manipulative texts. Sorry. Oh, your mother doesn't love you like I love you. I need your help in court, but if I do it, the court won't like it, so you do it. That way they'll receive it better. This type of correspondence with him and his kid. His kid was initiating the text messages despite the no contact order, which from what I understand was issued in his absence in another case. But the 80 counts of domestic violence that they're talking about consisted of him messaging back and forth with his kid. Whether or not you think it's manipulative, psychological manipulation, I think most of us would agree that it's not domestic violence, but when they talk about 80 counts of domestic violence in this case, that's what they mean. Okay, what was the question? So he allegedly violated the TRO, or it was at least a no contact order, by corresponding with his son. The court thinks it was interfering with, manipulating, psychologically abusing a child to turn him against his mother. The court has already declared this guy a vexatious litigant in other circumstances. And by and large, he's probably not a very pleasant person to hang around or be involved with at a litigation basis. Okay. What we witnessed yesterday was nothing shy of insanity. I posted 2 clips in particular, but we're going to watch one for those who didn't see it yet. Which is the judge in this case, Andrea Chin, who, born in California, not native to Seattle, but close to Seattle. She's been on the bench for a long time. This is a misdemeanor court. So this might be criminal or statutory, but it's not a criminal court in the sense of felony. It's a misdemeanor court where they can, I presume, only issue orders on misdemeanor crimes. He had already been found guilty. This was the sentencing on his 80 plus misdemeanors of domestic violence, and I'm putting it in quotes, of corresponding with his kid. They break for a 15-minute period that turned into 40, during which Encryptus, of our community, de facto Jamie, started fielding some questions to, keep people entertained while they were waiting for this judge to get back to the bench, because nobody knew why she was recessed for 40 minutes when it was supposed to be 15. She comes back to the bench, and we find out why she was gone for 40 minutes. And it's because she allegedly just found out that she's being sued by the defendant. Whether or not you believe it, because I don't, she either knew beforehand that she was being sued and pretended she didn't and tried to get away with it, or didn't know, found out, and then refuses to recuse herself. Listen to this.
Okay, the court was made aware.
By the way, before you complain about the audio, it's the court audio. I can't do anything about it. I'm just going to jack it up a little bit so we can hear.
Okay, the court was made aware that that Mr. Benchif had included me in a federal lawsuit recently. That's my understanding. I don't know whether there's services happened, but I was concerned about that and had consulted the State of Washington Judicial Ethics Advisory Committee, and I was referred to Opinion 96.17, which the court found appropriate in this situation. It indicates the judge should not be disqualified from presiding over a criminal case because the defendant has named the judge as a party in a civil lawsuit. So even though I've been apparently named in a lawsuit by Mr. Benchif, that fact has no bearing on my objectivity, my impartiality in this case.
Stop. She allegedly, by the way, I have good reason to believe I won't use any Lord's name in vain. She's a damn liar. I have good reason to believe it, and I'll tell you in a second. She alleges that she just found out she's being sued civilly by the defendant she's about to sentence. Oh, I called my ethics committee and they said, here's a decision that says a judge gets to not recuse herself even though she's being sued civilly at the sentencing hearing of the defendant that she's about to sentence. I'll be fine. I'll be impartial. And let's move on to the sentencing. This is the worst case of domestic violence I've ever seen in my life. Listen to this.
My decision as far as sentence will be based on the evidence produced at trial and all other applicable statutory standards required to be impartially considered and applied in going forward. So I just want to note that for the record.
Just note for the record,
Okay,
I'm not biased.
Thank everyone for their patience. There's quite a bit here. I have to start out by saying that this had to have been the worst case of domestic violence abuse that this court has seen. And granted, this is a Seattle municipal court. We're not a felony court. Defense's characterization of the situation, of all the evidence that we heard at this trial, as simply Mr. Benchouf wanting to trade texts with his son.
Oh, well, I cut it off at the wrong part. This is the worst case of domestic violence abuse she's ever seen. No, I don't mean to downgrade or downplay the potential that comes with psychological abuse. I mean, you wake up a kid, call kids names. I mean, there's room for psychological abuse within domestic abuse. This judge, who's been on the bench for decades, is claiming that this is the worst case of domestic violence abuse she's ever seen. Load of crap. And then she went on, by the way, to sentence him to literally years in jail. From what I understand, I think Barnes was clearing it up. She might have reduced her initial 7-year sentence to 2 years. 2 years. Years in jail. After she finds out allegedly that she's being sued, proceeds to affirm her own independence, then goes on to say that this case of a father texting his son, whether or not you think it's manipulative or not, is the worst case of domestic violence abuse she's ever seen. Yeah, take her at her word when she says she's not biased. By the way, take her at her word also when she says she didn't know she was getting sued. Kurt Ben-Souf filed a lawsuit against Judge Andrea Chin, along with other defendants, on June 7th, 2024. June to July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February. That's 8 months ago. Do you know what I will eat my underwear if it didn't happen? If she didn't appear in that case, Ben-Souf, guaranteed being a pro se litigant, would have filed for a judgment by default against her. Any defendant that doesn't appear, doesn't say, well, I'm going to defend myself, here's my attorney or here's my contact info, you apply for judgment by default. She was sued 8 months ago, and that judge takes a 40-minute recess before sentencing a man to years in prison for texting his son to say, I didn't know I was being sued, but even if I did, I'd be impartial. I would like to reaffirm my judicial independence and sentence this man to years in jail because his text messages with his son were the most egregious forms of domestic violence abuse I've ever seen in my career. Yeah, and if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. Now, but this was the truly shocking moment where I love it, and I love Barnes, and I thought he was going to go to jail. Hold on, let me bring it here. This is it. This is a moment where I was mildly concerned that Barnes was actually going to go to jail. Listen to this. Sorry for the recording quality. I wanted to have captions on this one, but even the auto-generated captions are pretty crappy here. But listen.
I realize that he has the case set for trial next week. And again, it comes down to the court trying to give Mr. Benchouf the benefit of the doubt.
But I can't do
when
that
this all started, that he has proven over and over again that he cannot be trusted.
He cannot be trusted. The vocal fry is really, really annoying. He can't be trusted. This is, by the way, in the context of her determining that she's denying bond or bail pending appeal. He's got a trial next week in another matter, Ben-Souf. This is a non-violent, despite what she says, misdemeanor that consists of text messages that some people consider to be manipulative. Text messages, years in jail, and she is denying bail pending appeal because this guy can't be trusted, and him being out in the public would be a risk.
The court sat through evidence, listening to everything that had happened, led up to the year-long episode of the underlying facts of this case. It observed Mr. Benchouf's outrageous behavior during trial. And for all those reasons, the court feels like there is a potential danger if he is not remanded into custody today.
Danger.
So I understand that you are representing him and the trial starts next week. However, the court is going to remand Mr. Benchouf into custody today.
So the court,
This is
so
Barnes.
the court, after denying him continuance, so you could railroad him at trial, now denying him a chance to meaningfully participate in this next trial, so you're going to railroad him in that case. I mean, come on.
Mr. Barnes?
Mr. Barnes?
Mr. Barnes?
I mean,
You're okay.
can you at least continue it so I can have him available to prepare for
No,
trial?
Mr. Barnes,
Is
no.
that really too much to ask?
Mr. Barnes,
How much punishment is enough?
Mr. Barnes, your objection is noted. Mr. Benchouf is being taken into custody today.
I would move to disqualify. I believe this court was being dishonest earlier when it said it was not personally prejudiced. What the court has said is clear that it is personally prejudiced, that it's not able to put its personal prejudice aside and be impartial. So I move to disqualify the court on due process grounds, refuse and reschedule the sentencing hearing with the court that is not compromised by personal bias against the defendant.
All right, Mr. Barnes,
I've heard it.
that
Your
motion is denied and it's noted.
It's noted. Denied. I'm so polite.
Okay.
Okay, now flip coin.
All right, I do have.
Off with him. Oh, by the way, is that his
Mr.
trial
Bailiff,
still going
I have
on?
the judgment and sentence.
Please let the record reflect that now the court has again removed the defendant from his own proceeding.
Well, let's see.
It's
And the court
actually,
did in trial in denial of his rights.
Okay, hang on. Mr. Benchett can stay if I didn't, maybe I missed something. Was there a reason that he was?
We heard the remand him into custody, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. Can we have him stand by? Because there are several judgment and sentence forms that the parties are going to need to review.
appreciate that, by the way. She didn't want to bring him back for matters of justice. She wanted to bring him back only because he apparently needed to sign certain documents or read certain documents as relates to his sentencing. So Barnes up there risking imprisonment because that was borderline. I think that judge was a little bit on her heels because I think she recognized how wrong what she was doing was. Yep, okay, that's nice. I've heard you. Your motion is denied. Okay, we're taking him into custody now. We know that he's got a trial next week, but tough noogies. He should have thought about that before he sued me 8 months ago, and then I pretended I didn't know about it. That's his problem, not mine. Oh, and then to remove him from the courtroom of his own trial after he's been sentenced. But no, keep him close by because we need him to sign some papers before we throw him in jail. So that is the commie hellhole that is Seattle, that is Washington. Stay the hell out because you won't be safe there, period. And I know some of you say, oh, you never... Look, I have the discussion with Dexter Taylor all the time. Why he stayed in New York to be arrested, convicted, sentenced to a decade in jail for exercising his Second Amendment rights. And he says, look, communism knows no bounds. I'm like, yep, but you can certainly fight communism more effectively when you're not in jail in a commie hellhole. So that's what Barnes did yesterday. I haven't been able to speak to him yet. I know that he's going to have one hell of a rant when he gets back on locals and gets back on the internet. But that's it. Ben Souf has now been sentenced to what I understand is 2 years in jail, a little less, a little more, whatever. But the judge came down from 7, so good for her. And that's the system. Stay the hell out of it at all costs. Barbisa Arian says present and unaccountable. I presume she's talking about the judge, and I can't disagree with that much. Jameson 2012 says Locals community new task. How about we make a collection of letters to Andrea Chin and publish them on Kindle? No threats in the letters. Target her reputation is the only thing we can do. I just spread the truth. She should be proud of her decision. She should be proud of what she's done there. And if she lied, she should be put on absolute blast. She didn't know that she was being sued? Grok knew. Let me see here. When did Andrea Chin accept service of Ben Hoof's? Let's see if this actually gives us an answer. I don't think this is possibly going to give us an answer. But it's like it's demonstrable. It's easily verifiable when she accepted service for it, when she began to represent herself in it, either through counsel or personally. There is zero chance she was not aware of that lawsuit. And she probably didn't disclose it for a certain period of time. It became known. She then has to go call the ethics committee, real rush-like. How the hell do I get myself out of matters on this? Court records do not publicly detail the service date for the Judge Chin. Specifically, and no updates from the docket explicitly confirm whether or not she was served. Posts on X from February 2025 suggest during the court proceedings, Judge Chin claimed to be unaware. Or, oh, look at that. It's got my own post. This is I made it into Grok, people. However, this anecdotal and inconclusive without official documentation. Given standard legal procedures, service likely occurred sometime between the filing on June 7th and February 2025, when the issue surfaced in court. Without access to the sealed or non-public service records, the exact date remains unclear. For a precise answer, you could consult the PACER system. Okay. Yeah, well, we'll find out. That's what the internet's for. Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. Everybody, how's it going? What do we do here? Do we have the link? Everyone should move their butts on over to Rumble or vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But we'll take a couple of more subject matters here before we migrate here. Link to Rumble here. And I'll give you the link to Locals as well for anybody who wants to come over there. Link to Locals, and it spells. There's a lot of typos. I got fat fingers. Okay, what else do we do that's going to be fun? Oh, there's so much. There's so much. Okay, we got the court. The internet is good for everything, and news breaks. You got to double check. You got to look into things, and as Encryptus is in the back, we'll see if the aggregate knowledge of our Locals community of Encryptus massively successful AI programming stuff, which we're going to come to in the second half of the show over on Rumble. Let's see if what people can determine about this. Do you remember? You remember Whitehouse, Sheldon Whitehouse? He was that scumbag POS during the confirmation hearings, railing against Tulsi Gabbard, railing against Kash Patel, railing against RFK Jr. I don't actually remember which ones. I just remember seeing his ugly, sniveling little face. It's like, this guy's a real piece of crap. I have to go check my tweets on this. Apparently, according to Libs of TikTok, who's not doesn't bat 100, nobody does, but pretty consistent. Bombshell. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, backed legislation that funneled millions to his wife's environmental nonprofit, Ocean Conservancy. She's been paid nearly $2.7 million while the group raked in $14.2 million plus in federal grants funded by bills Whitehouse voted for. Now, an ethics watchdog is calling for an investigation into this blatant corruption. And we got page 1 here of Fact. Foundation for Accountability and Civic Trust. I like that. This is February 24th to Sheldon Whitehouse. Dear Senator Langford, Senator Coons, the Foundation for Accountability is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting accountability and ethics, yada, yada, yada. We request the Senate Select Committee on Ethics investigate Sheldon Whitehouse to determine whether he violated the Senate ethics rules on conflicts of interest. Facts, Senator Whitehouse's wife, Sandra Whitehouse, has worked for the advocacy group Ocean Conservancy since 2008. According to tax filings, Ocean Conservancy has paid Sandra Whitehouse, through her consulting firm, a lot of money. How much was it? Since 2008, Ocean Conservancy has been awarded 19 government grants with approximately $14.2 million. However, nearly half of this $14 million was given to the group in the fall of 2024 alone, all of which Senator Whitehouse directly voted for. In September 2024, Ocean Conservancy received $5.2 million in federal grant from the National Oceanic, and it goes on. So let's just go like this. Ocean Conservancy, Whitehouse. We're gonna get the complaint. Okay, but what I want to see is, it's amazing. It's amazing. Ocean Conservancy, Whitehouse. Let's see, board.
There are some links in the chat for you.
Ah, whose voice was that? Hold on, links in the chat. Now I got to go back to the window. I can probably take this out here. Let's go see in the private chat. Encryptus. Yes, Ocean Conservancy.
Yes,
here we go. Look at this. Let's bring this up and see what it has to say. But by the way, I'm inclined to believe it, but we must give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Ocean Conservancy statement. Okay, I don't know if this is going to get us. Hold on, press release in the media. This is where you want to go. In the news, experts. Let's just see here. Well, we're not finding Whitehouse. We'll find it later. Bottom line, there is virtually little doubt that these scumbag scoundrels who are so objecting to what's going on are not personally involved with and personally benefiting from what has been the darkness of non-disclosure. Okay, last one before we head on over to Rumble. Another idiot being an idiot. Complaining about downsizing of government. Set aside whether or not it's direct corruption. It's either direct corruption or just egregious stupidity. This is, what's his name? Hold on. This is Joshua Cole lamenting the downsizing of the federal government, that he's from a district that is the leading federal percentage of federal employees. And my goodness, if they fire all the employees, well, then who's going to defend the rest of it? Listen to this, by the way, because he also mangles the World War II era poem, Idiot.
I think it's also very key. I think I'm the only one up here that represents the 7th Congressional District. And what is very interesting is a recent report came out that said the 7th Congressional District had the highest concentration of federal workers out of any other congressional district in the entire United States. And so I'm very much interested to hear, we've heard.
Pause. What were his exact words? They have the highest percentage, the highest concentration of federal
workers out of any other congressional district in the entire United States.
Congratulations, you're part of the problem. We talked about this with Barnes. They have the highest concentration of federal workers. So you think they're going to be against cutting federal spending, or at least downsizing the federal government. Of course, that's what you call the audience capture. That's what you call the corrupt capture. You get everybody dependent on you so they can never vote you out of power, because if they do, they're going to lose their jobs. That is one surefire way of making sure you have their votes forever.
And so I'm very much interested to hear, we've heard Delegate Thomas talk about housing. And I remember being here in 2020 when we had to deal with the pandemic. The difference between then and now is we had extra money coming in. We're not going to have extra money coming in. We're actually going to be losing money over this situation. And I'm very much interested in how the loss of that money, of federal income, is going to impact our communities. I also noted that Spotsylvania County, where I represent, is in the top 5 counties that receives federal funding. We are about to attend a ribbon cutting ceremony for a brand new VA hospital next week, and how these cuts are going to impact our veterans. And Mr. Chair, I must say that I have seen so many different people on social media rather excited about these cuts. Rather excited about these job losses.
Excited about cuts and excited about job losses are two different things. There will be some either growing pains or shrinking pains necessarily, but let's just hear where you're going to go with this, Joshua Cole, because I'm interested. You're leading me into a nice place. This is going to be a very poignant, deep thought that you're going to issue right now.
And that reminds me of a quote from a long time ago that said, at first, they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't Jewish. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade unionist. And then when they came for me, there was no one to speak up because everyone had been taken. And so I think what's very interesting is that these job cuts and these cuts are not just impacting people with federal jobs, but all across the board, people are going to be feeling the hurt. And we have to make sure we're doing what we can within the power that we have to do that.
We can pause it there so that we spare ourselves some brain cells. Many of you know what he's talking about, despite his best effort to mangle that as badly as humanly possible. It was by Pastor Martin Niemöller. First they came. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. I think the only problem with the come with, you're not going to get much sympathy for communists these days, especially seeing what the commies do to society. But way to mangle the poem, Cole, and way to bastardize. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm surprised they haven't called it yet a federal Holocaust layoff. What do they do? They've already exploited for political profit the big lie, le grosse Lügen, the big lie, which was a Nazi trope. To talk about the Jews. They've already used that one for political purposes. Why don't they just call this like a federal worker layoff Holocaust? See, they're halfway there, and I wouldn't put it past them to get there. But congratulations on analogizing a downsizing of the federal government to the Holocaust. You're an idiot, and you deserve everything you get in life. All right, with that said, people, now we're going to migrate. Oh, we got a new subscriber, Jatis. I love looking at a name and thinking of all the different ways to pronounce it. Here we can go with Jadis, Jadis, Jatis, Jatis, Yatis, or it could be a silent J and it could just be Adis, and then all of the other iterations. Welcome to the community. You will enjoy being here. We got Garvin from our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. Will you continue to live stream Barnes in court? Every time I can, for sure. It's just that it doesn't happen very often. But for sure we will. But now speaking of idiot government, we should probably go to Canada. If you've seen my vlog from earlier today, it will not be surprising to you, but we've got to watch this. So I'm going to start playing it, and I'm going to cut it halfway, so it's going to piss everybody off who doesn't come over to Rumble. Come on over to Rumble and watch the. I'm going to actually I'll play this one here. Yeah, so we're gonna play this one as we migrate over. Julie Kelly, here we go. These are the people that are losing their jobs, by the way. These are the people that are losing their jobs in the federal employment. And these are the people that are losing their jobs in the media in terms of reporting on them. And as far as I'm concerned, they both deserve to lose their jobs. It's going to stop halfway, people. So come on over to Rumble, but enjoy this.
The Justice Department is under attack. They're coming after the people that want to uphold the law as it exists. And that should be terrifying to everyone.
That should be terrifying to everyone. Look at the side eye. The side eye. Like AOC. I'm convinced it's a sign of someone being deceitful. That should terrify everyone.
Sarah Levine and Sean Brennan were federal prosecutors on the Justice Department's biggest investigation, the attack on the Capitol, until they were fired by the Trump administration January 31st.
That was their biggest investigation. I'm sorry, we're migrating it over now, but come on over with the rest of this.